Welcome everybody to another Voice of Nick show. We are doing more of the audiobook project, and there's a big sort of milestone between this episode and the one immediately previous to it. The book has come out on Kindle, so A Japanese Boy, you can get it right now on Amazon. You can get it for Kindle, or you can read it on your computer or whatever. It's available in its digital edition. The illustrations are in there at the beginning of each chapter, so there's 14 illustrations in the book, many of which you guys saw me, helping to create live on stream. So pick it up if you're interested. I think it's a really fascinating story. That's why I took on the project, and I'm really happy that it is finally, coming out. So we are now working on the audiobook version, which, for anybody who doesn't know how the process works, you have to have published the written edition first, and then you can release the audiobook version. So we've been producing them in tandem, but I made sure to kind of like take the Kindle version over the finish line first because it has to come out first anyway. So now I'm in the final stage of the audiobook production process, which is something I always do at the end, where I listen through to the entire book while reading the manuscript at the same time, and just do any final checks that are needed. So this one is mostly just going to be me actually just listening to what is essentially like a 99% complete version of the audiobook. So this is about the closest that you will get in these behind the scenes videos to like a real unadulterated like preview of the book, nearly uninterrupted. There will still be parts where I'm editing. I mean, this is still a video where you're watching my process, so I'll still be editing it, but where needed, but enjoy. And I'm fully aware that you will be able to hear a mostly uninterrupted section of my audiobook. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that if your interest is piqued by hearing it, that you will consider checking out the book for yourself on Audible or the written version on Kindle. All right, let's do it.
Chapter 5. Baths. When the close of a day called me home from school and my father's work was done, a sense of contentment and repose brooded over our household. A vigorous scrub at a public bath often gave our tired bodies a renewed muscular tone. I accompanied my father to this resort. When I was very young, my mother carried me thither. The bathhouse is a private establishment of its proprietor, and public in the sense that townspeople betake themselves to it without restraint. The charge is only a few mills for the adult, half the amount for the child, and nothing for the suckling. If a number of checks, branded flat pieces of wood, be purchased at one time, the average charge is still less. In Imabari, there are a dozen or more of these baths. They mostly occupy the corners of the streets like American drugstores. They are open from late in the afternoon till late at night. On holidays, accommodation baths are ready at early daybreak. As soon as a bath is in readiness, its keeper places a flag at the eaves in the daytime, and a square paper lantern after dusk. At the entrance is a stand where you deposit your fare. Afternoon till late at night. On holiday,
I think this is the opposite, that this wants to be closer and this wants to be farther.
from late in the afternoon till late at night. On holidays, accommodation baths are ready at early daybreak. As soon as a bath is in readiness, its keeper places a flag at the eaves in the daytime and a square paper lantern after dusk. At the entrance is a stand where you deposit your fare and exchange a word on the weather with the keeper if you are neighborly. Advancing a few steps, you leave your clogs on a low platform, on the sides of which rise tiers of lockers for clothes. You must bring your own towels. Ladies also take with them little cotton bags of rice bran. They close the bags tightly with strings, soak them in hot water, and rub their faces and hands with the wet balls. The process is said to refine the texture of the skin wonderfully. The bath proper is a great covered tank full of hot water, with a terrace work of planks sloping down on the four sides, where you sit and wash. The ceiling is low enough to bump your head unless you're cautious. It projects forward and stoops to prevent the steam from escaping unnecessarily. Therefore, even when it is lighted within, it is twilight, owing to the confined vapor. One feels in it as if working in a mine or a tunnel. Older men discuss town topics and business, and young men hum popular airs as they bathe, and intimate friends press each other to rub down their backs. The water is kept warm by a huge metallic heater behind, which is in communication with the tank, but covered with planks so as not to scald the bathers' feet. In case the water proves too hot, the bathers consult each other's comfort courteously, and one of them claps his hands. It is answered by a sound at the entrance stand, and immediately cold water spouts into the tank. Then the men stir the tank thoroughly on all sides. Being but a child, I took great delight in the excitement. I would creep up to the hole and plug it with my wet towel, and after a few minutes pull it out abruptly to see the water spurt forth with redoubled energy. The wall has usually a small door. Pushing it open, the fireman peeps in occasionally when there's too much noise. The first time I noticed it, I was almost scared out of my wits. Happening to look around, I saw on the dim wall a grim human head staring me in the face.
This has a missing line.
I noticed it. I was almost scared out of my wits. Happening to look.
Okay, marking this one that it needs a revision.
Noise. The first time I
Save that too.
noticed it, I was almost scared out of my wits. Happening to look around, I saw on the dim wall a grim human head staring me in the face. Between the tank and the floor is a space paved with large, flat, rectangular stones and cemented with mortar, where the people who think it too close in the tank can step out and wash, sitting on long, narrow benches. In some baths, this place is overlaid with planks in such a manner that water can trickle down between them. Here we may use soap, but not in the tank. Several small wooden tubs are near at hand. With them we pour the hot water over our body after rubbing, and in them we give our towels a final clean water washing when through using them. The clear, cold water for the latter purpose is constantly bubbling up in a shallow, well-like enclosure hard by. A couple of dippers float in it, and the people also drink of the water if thirsty. In well-regulated baths, near the cold water enclosure is a hot water cistern, constantly fed through a bamboo pipe with boiling water that has not been used. People of cleanly habits, on emerging from the common tank, dip out this fresh warm water and bathe again. Of course, it would be objectionable to retain the same water in the tank all day, and have people bathe in it over and over. As a matter of fact, a portion of it is drawn off at intervals and replaced with a fresh supply. The ladies' side is precisely the same in arrangement as the gentlemen's. A partition, however, separates them completely. If you meet a man on the street in Japan with a wet towel hanging on his shoulder, he is from the public bath. He wears no hat, even in sallying forth into the open air from the confined atmosphere, walks leisurely along, dragging the high clogs, and feeling thoroughly comfortable. In summer evenings, while maidens, mothers, and children are cooling themselves in the breeze on movable platforms in front of their residences, young men from the bath come strolling up, inquire politely after their health, and make themselves agreeable. As the after-bath garment and towel are to be thus exhibited before the eyes of their admirers, new fashions arise every year in regard to them. The fashion changes not so much in tailoring as in the color and pattern. We are not without private baths, too. Large aristocratic families are all provided with them. The bathhouse is usually fitted up in a wing at the back of the building. In it, a tub large enough to admit a person in a squatting position is placed on a cauldron. The loose wooden bottom of the tub is left floating while the water boils, serving as the cover. It is fastened afterward. The head of the family goes in first, after him his wife, then come their children, beginning with the eldest. After them follow the domestics, ranged according to their relative importance. Evenings at home. Evenings at home were...
Was this a... I think this might need a little bit of extra time.
After them follow the domestics, ranged according to their relative importance. Evenings at home. Evenings at home were always spent very pleasantly, especially before my sisters were married and went away. There were 4 of them, excluding the eldest, who had left us a good while ago, but used to visit us and add to our gaiety. What did we do to enjoy ourselves? We had music and dancing very often, singing, of course, parties to which our best friends came, games of cards, social chat, and fireside talk, whatever goes to make the home attractive. Mother took great interest in them herself. She chaperoned the girls. We had young ladies of the neighborhood come to us, and our house was looked upon as one of the social foci of little Imabari. But a reverse in my father's fortune and frequent change of abode put an end to those happy days of yore. Japanese dancing and music. Japanese dance.
I suppose this is correct, but it sounds...
Abode put an end to those happy days of yore. Japanese dancing and music. Japanese dancing, I declare without prejudice, is more elaborate and graceful than your round and square dances, but may not be as fascinating. Ladies and gentlemen do not dance together. Moreover, our dancing is not anything that can be picked up at balls and receptions, nor is it learned by hopping and skipping at the dancing academy. In fact, it is not the simple keeping time with music, not repetitions of the same steps over and over again. It is composed of posturing and is more like acting, though the maneuvers are predetermined in regular order and not left to the dancer's fancy. Here in America, dancing is easily acquired by persons who have an ear for music and grace of carriage, and after having learned to waltz elegantly or divinely, they have practically mastered all other figures. In Japan, each figure is emphatically a new one, and there are many, many figures with distinct names. One cannot learn them all. Each figure requires a separate effort for its mastery. A dance lasts 20 minutes or more. Scarcely 2 steps in it seem alike. In learning a Japanese dance, one begins with little tosses of the head, engaging sways of the body, and easy movements of the extremities. Many young girls of the town practiced the primary exercises in our house. They came to ask assistance of my second sister, who excelled the rest in dancing. I see her vivacious figure trip up to a beginner, who struck an awkward attitude, and correct a twist of the neck as the barber and photographer fixed their customers' heads. She taught my youngest sister very thoroughly in all the dances she knew, and after that, Mother put Mitsu, that is the name of my little sister, under the special tuition of a lady who had just then arrived from Osaka, a great center of enjoyment and politeness. The dancing mistress had a very pretty adopted daughter who assisted her, and they together aroused enthusiasm among the people of Imabari in the art of grace. A society formed itself naturally, with the lady as the nucleus, and a scheme was projected for a public exhibition of dances. The parents of the dancing children manifested more zeal than the children themselves. As they came in for it with willing heart and liberal hand, the scheme was pushed forward with surprising rapidity. A mammoth curtain was made that was to be hoisted in the theater where the brilliant events were to take place. It had painted on it numerous big fans, and on the fans were written the names of the members. My big brother was busily engaged in painting scenes and constructing apparatus. My sisters were diligently selecting stage dresses for Mitsu. And then the young ladies met in our place to rehearse the dances, songs, and instrumental music that made us still more agreeably busy. Weeks were spent in preparation, and when it came off at last, the entertainment was a grand affair, continuing for several days. The town turned out in a body. It was more like successful theatricals than anything, and was repeated once or twice afterwards, with the substitution for the former dances of many equally classical pieces. All the dances are accompanied by songs and instruments. The instrument most commonly used is the samisen. It looks somewhat like a banjo, but is much larger and has a square body instead of a round one. The woodwork is of mahogany. In playing it, the touching is not done with the fingers, but with a plectrum of ivory. The samisen is capable of giving out both the mellow notes of the guitar and the sharp tone sprays of the banjo. You hear it played in Japanese homes to the same extent as the piano is in this country. We had in our family 2 or 3 samisen, and every day my sisters practiced on them. Other instruments of music are the koto, the tsuzumi, and the drum. The koto is a heavy 13-stringed instrument, of which, by mere description, I can hardly give an idea. The player sits before it, and with claws fitted to the fingers of both hands, plays at the 2 ends. The tsuzumi is an hourglass-shaped drum, which is tapped with the right hand. 2 tsuzumi are frequently played by a single person. A light tsuzumi is laid on the right shoulder and held by the left hand, and a heavy tsuzumi is rested on the left knee, slightly elevated, and pressed down with the left elbow. The right hand is free to move between the 2 tsuzumi which it beats. The light tsuzumi emits a soft tone, the heavy one a deep sound. The stroke, unless skillfully performed, often inflicts a violent injury to the fingers. The vellum of the tsuzumi is of fox skin and yellow in color. That of the samisen is of cat skin and white as snow. The drum is not the sort drubbed in a military band. It is smaller and more moderate in its intonation. These instruments, the koto, samisen, taiko, drum, and tsuzumi, are frequently played in concert.
My pronunciation of taiko is a little bit too, it sounds like I'm saying taiko.
And tsuzumi, taiko.
That's fine, probably.
The koto, samisen, taiko, drum,
Yeah, I think it's
and
fine.
tsuzumi.
It's kind of hard to switch between English and Japanese. Sometimes the same concept doesn't really exist in English, where if you hold a letter too long, it sounds like a different word.
Samisen, taiko, drum, and tsuzumi are frequently played in concert. The samisen players, 2 of them at any rate, to one of the others, sing in high pitch while their supple fingers twinkle across the chords. The taiko and tsuzumi beaters shriek now and then as they thrum and whack. Do I like it? Isn't it hideous? Well, I can't say how it would strike me now, yet I used to think it all very fine. There's another stringed instrument, a ridiculously simple one that I liked best. It is named ichigenkin. A plain board, a few feet in length and a few inches in width, with no other ornament than half a dozen Chinese characters written on it to indicate the various keys. Only a single string along the whole length, a bamboo ring for the middle finger of the left hand to touch on the keys, and a small flat piece of horn to pluck the string with. These make up an ichigenkin. The origin of this unpretentious instrument is said to be as follows. A high court noble of amiable disposition and poetic temperament, on his way southward from the ancient palace in Kyoto years ago, was obliged to moor near the beautiful shores of Akashi on account of a heavy storm. The sea tossed about his boat, the sky stretched gray, the thatch overhead became soaked in the rain, the wind sighed among the pines on the deserted shore. A sense of loneliness weighed on his gentle nature. The fading landscape in the dusk, the mournful cry of a seagull, the sight of a boat miles away laboring in the waves, peradventure laden with lives, all conspired to produce in him a sadness more than human. In order to beguile his ennui, he constructed himself a rude musical instrument with a board and string, and poured out the feelings of the hour in many a celebrated tune. The ichigenkin music is low and simple and sweet. On rainy nights, when the candle burns dim and all is quiet, I feel most in the mood to listen. Japanese music is in a crude state of development. There are no written notes to go by in playing, nor in singing is there any system like your do, re, mi, etc. to depend upon. As yet, it is strictly an art and not a science. One is obliged to get it by observation, imitation, and practice. Music is taught by lady teachers, but a set of blind men who perform massage for a livelihood take scholars likewise. They have their heads shaved, walk abroad alone, feeling their way with sticks. Some of them have been to Osaka and Kyoto for a musical degree, conferred on them in certain schools. In Japan, music is not divided into the vocal and the instrumental. The two are always taught together by the same instructor. Vocal cultivation is conducted in a singular way. During the winter, the girl in training clothes herself comfortably, takes a samisen, and ascends every cold night the scaffold erected on the roof of the house for drying purposes. There she sits for hours together amid the howling blasts, singing defiantly and banging away courageously at the samisen. Upon her coming down, she is found worse than hoarse. She can hardly utter a word. The training is and banging away.
Oops. All right, let's save that. So that's a good amount of progress on that one. Mark this as in progress for the listen. Cool. Yeah, it's a deceptively large part of the process to do this part because it seems like it will only take the length of the book to read through, do the final read through, but you're critically analyzing it. So, you're pausing and rewinding and marking things to be changed and doing final edits and stuff. So it always ends up taking longer than it seems like it will. The book, though, in its rough, I have everything in. The time will clock in at about 3.5 hours for the audiobook, which is a nice, pretty quick, relatively quick read, around the same time as the previous audiobook that we did on Yara. So I wrote the introduction and yesterday put that in for the audiobook version as well. I'm really happy with how the introduction turned out. I'm really happy with how the illustrations turned out. For anybody who hasn't seen some of these process videos, I've been putting up as, no narration versions, just the video, which are some of the ones that I did for illustrating when I didn't have a mic with me. So I would just, do the illustrations without the mic. And so you can watch those as well and see how some of those illustrations came together. This has been a great process doing this whole thing. I'm excited to keep going with it. Again, you can find the Kindle version already on Amazon here. It's a little bit tough to find because if you search a Japanese boy on Amazon, you know, you'll find like school supplies and like all kinds of things, you know, like it could be anything. So if you search a Japanese boy, the voice of Nick, you'll find it. Or if you search for a Japanese boy book or a Japanese boy, Shigemi Shukichi, the author's name, you'll also find it. But yeah, take a look for that. This is available right now. You can find it right now on Amazon, and the audiobook version, which we're currently working on, is going to be on Audible very soon. So keep an eye out for that as well. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye, and thanks for watching.